the iconic element of the Malae on the surface of Malae was done by Tania Short. And of course, when we discussed the notion of the Malae as being comparable to the idea of the ocean, and then Tania responded to that with literally taking images from maps of the ocean, and there are a lot of complex ideas that she worked with in terms of the way the map colonized the Pacific, how it starts to map out this undefinable region, which is the surface of the ocean, you know. And we were very mindful at the idea of the Malae as a ground as well as an ungrounding, where in the traditional customary way, people get up to speak on the Malae, and when they get up to speak on the Malae, they have a staff which they stick into the ground, and for that very moment they hold space. What Tania has suggested for the space is to use a whole lot of, if you like, the surface of the Malae, which she designed the paving, was to show that the Malae is a complicated thing in New Zealand, where you have layers of, if you like, colonization and layers of empirical works in the Pacific, make the Malae even more complicated area rather than a simple Pacific Malae in the Pacific. We are talking about something that is grounded in the institution.
The atoll itself was kind of, that grew out of, well, the whole idea came from our love of mapping, really. Yeah. And I like the architectural drawings. Looking at those, you could see the elevations and things for the grass and the roof and stuff out there, and we wanted to make that sort of come into the piece so it wasn't just flat. Subtlety was a huge driver for us, because there was so much happening out there with the other works and stuff. It's, you know, making it sit back and be respectful of what's around it, really. My family is, on both sides, my mum and dad are both Rarotongan and Māori mixed heritage, and I've sort of did some work in the past which was looking at the direct line that you have from the East Cape back to Rarotonga, and how historically, you know, that was a main highway. Yeah, so we sort of took that section and in order to kind of get it so that you would feel like you're in the deep ocean, we had that difference between the rough and the smooth out there, so you sort of get that feeling of movement as much as possible. And then the cut images that are in there on the top, on the surface of that, are more our kind of idea of this accidental and deliberate voyages, and it started off being a series of arrows because the map that Marty found in the library was talking about all the logged trips that they could find of Polynesians travelling inter-island in history, and how most of them were accidental voyages and hardly any of them were deliberate, and we thought that was quite an interesting sounding idea of how do you know what's accidental and what's deliberate, and when you come to a place like the university to study, you never know really where it's going to take you. So when you're doing something, a community work which involves so many different people and is representative of them all, it's quite hard to kind of do something that's not sort of specific just to yourself. And so the atoll kind of represents everyone by being one island but not anything particular or anything specific. Practically, we thought it would be quite good to have somewhere for people to sit and meet when they come into the area. And there are many stories that I've gotten from my father and from my mum's side of the family about the significance of rocks. I mean, in Rarotonga, in the house that my dad was brought up in, they have a rock in the middle of the lounge and the whole house is built around it. And they said that it was like the meeting place of the spirits on the island So, and I listen to sort of Māori stories, and they talk about bringing these talisman rocks with them on the original voyaging canoes, and how those were placed in maraes when they were built. And in Rarotonga, an outcropping of rock is actually called a marae, so, or a Malae. So I don't know whether, the idea has changed and the building has become the name here, but it's kind of, for me, it's significant of all those things.